Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my van down by the river. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the 2020 election, and I wanted to ask a question. Will a third party, or even a couple of third parties, as it were, I guess it would be a third or fourth or fifth party, will alternate parties play a role and play a decisive role in the 2020 election? I think in general what you're seeing amongst the voting population in America is a general disgruntled feeling concerning the various political parties to choose from. So we've been told to vote for a third party is to waste your vote. And I think if you had any question whether that was true or not, the Ross Perot campaign, of which I did vote for Ross Perot, so, I wasted my vote on Ross Perot. But, and there was a giant sucking sound, by the way. Everything Ross Perot said happened. NAFTA just about destroyed our country and derailed our economy, and it's just now coming back online. So, I think many people are, disturbed about the direction of both political parties. The Republican parties do not represent true conservative values anymore. They pay lip service to conservative values while voting down the center or left of center quite often. And people like the late John McCain were completely indistinguishable at all as Republicans. Now, you used to be able to tell a Republican from a Democrat because Democrats were for peace and Republicans were war hawks. But that is not the case anymore. People like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were the bloodiest leaders our country has ever known. Barack Obama purportedly, according to some sources that I've heard, some stories, actually flew drone missions himself like a video game and actually participated in the killing of terrorists. So Barack Obama, I voted for Barack Obama, and because he ran under the guise that he was going to get our people out of the war. That even though I'm a pro-Second Amendment guy, I'm an anti-war guy. I don't want our people over there. I'm a bit of an isolationist. I don't think we got any business messing around in these foreign countries. And this, George W. Bush, voted for him too, dragged us into, this Middle Eastern war in Iraq over weapons of mass destruction that didn't even exist. That there was never any weapons of mass destruction. It was a big fat lie. Just like Alex Jones is saying the other day on Capitol Hill. They told us, a little girl, a daughter of a diplomat who'd never been to Iraq, told us that they pulled babies out. She testified before Congress that they pulled babies out of incubators and killed them. The Iraqis did. And it was part of the reason we went over there. There's weapons of mass destruction. The Iraqis are so evil. They'll do all these terrible things. And war after war we've been dragged into by these lies, told on both sides, quite frankly, that whether it's the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the weapons of mass destruction, or, pick your lie. The fact is, neither the Democrats or the Republicans are peaceful-minded or peace-oriented anymore. They are pretty much murderous war hawks on both sides that want to drag us into some international conflict at the drop of a hat over a whim. I won't get into all of the things that I hate about the Democratic Party, and I won't get into all of the things I hate about the modern Republican Party. Now, having said that, people ask me, Sage, people that know me know that I voted for Bush, I voted for Obama, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, and then I switched sides to Trump. And they're like, how can you be so scattered? Because I'm looking for anybody who's going to do something a little bit different. I voted for Bush when I was young over, both Bushes over gun control, because I just come out of the Clinton gun grabbing scheme and, the 1994 assault weapons ban and all of that, that finally, thank God, got sunsetted. But, I voted for Bush for that. But since then, every vote I have made is for someone who is promising to do something different. So what is more different than alternative parties? I think maybe we're in the perfect position because we're so polarized right now. I think that a lot of people who are in the center, who have ideas on both sides, are feeling like they're being torn apart, and there's no home for centrists. There is no home for moderates in this environment. When you're like me and you're politically centered, you're getting hit from the right and the left. Watch the comment section. You'll see it. You'll see it in the comment section. You'll see people calling Trump a POS and how could I support him? And at the same time, people will attack Obama and say, how could I be so stupid to vote for Obama? And they're all going to say, you're going to throw away your vote on a third party, just like what happened with Ross Perot. Well, I'm thinking the only way a third party could be successful in this country is if it was truly centered and it drew from both sides. Because the extremists on the right and the extremists on the left are actually the minorities in our country. And the majority of us are somewhere in the middle. That people on the left who believe in open borders and think that if you're a person of color, you can do no wrong, and that you should not be punished for crimes because it's not your fault. If you're Arab and you're over here and you rape somebody, because you're a Muslim and you're a refugee and you rape somebody, oh well, that's just your culture. We should just allow you to do that, like they're doing in Europe. That far left ideology is not the average American, and the far right ideology that we should round up all our political dissidents and put them in Guantanamo Bay, and that we should silence our opponents and take away their freedom of speech, and that we should force homosexuals into re-education and into straight training to train them to be straight. This idea that I used to say this as a centrist, that the left want to look in my gun cabinet and the right want to look in my bedroom. And I don't want them looking in my bedroom or my gun cabinet. I don't want them to know what's in that little box I keep under my bed, that I take out and twist up at night so I can sleep. I don't want them worrying about what's in that little box, and I don't want them worrying about what's in my gun cabinet, and I don't want them worrying about who I love or who I want to marry. And so I think if there was a political party that could capture somehow an element of ideas from the center and then demonize both sides, if they could take the attacks coming from both directions, both the left and the right. One thing I can say from being a centrist is that by taking attacks from the left and the right, if I can keep my cool in that situation, I make both sides look like idiots. I make fair-minded people will look at how I'm attacked from both sides and they'll take my side. Because they're like, look, this guy's just trying to bridge the gap. He's just trying to get us all to talk. He's not an extremist in either direction. Why are you hating on him? So I think that there's got to be, if we're to survive as a nation without a civil war, there must be an alternative to these two extreme ideologies. Why did I vote? I haven't voted for anybody. That's the thing. I haven't voted for a while because I was going to vote for Bernie, and then Hillary screwed him over, and I hadn't really figured out that the lies they were telling about Trump weren't truths, but were lies, and that they were framing Trump up until after the election. That's when I figured that out. But having said that, people would say, how could you be a Bernie supporter and then turn around and be a Trump supporter? Because they both promised the same thing Ross Perot promised. We're outsiders. We're not one of them. It's the same thing that Barack Obama promised us. Change. He said, I'm not one of them. I'm something different. Give my generation a try. Give us a chance. And I did. And they did the same old crap the other generation did. Barack Obama wasn't any different than all the rest of them. Honestly, I can't see a lick of difference between Barack Obama and George W. Bush, except how they're perceived. Because their policies, especially in the foreign wars, were identical. They just did whatever the generals told them to do. So, what we're really how we're really being treated here is we're being offered a totalitarian form of government, and it's disguised as a democracy. And as long as we have two political parties where the biggest donor in the political party can pretty much decide who they're gonna put up for the presidency, which is what happened with the Democrats. Hillary Clinton bought the DNC by funding them with all of the donation money and keeping them afloat. So they just gave her the nomination, despite the fact that Bernie would have whooped her. Bernie would have whooped her in an open. Without the superdelegates, Bernie had her number. She didn't have a chance. Nobody wanted that woman as president, not even her own Democrats. Only people that wanted Hillary Clinton to be president were women who were activists, who were they didn't care if it was the devil themselves, as long as it was a female devil they were putting in the office. So, Is a third party viable? I think that we'll fail as a country if we don't develop a moderate third party, a centrist party. Now, some people will say that the only way you can survive as a third party is to take over one of the other two parties, which is essentially what Trump did. If you want to get right down to it, Trump's not a Republican, nor is he a Democrat. Trump is a centrist. Trump does not have extreme ideas. You guys think he does because your handlers on the left are so afraid of anything on the right. They've convinced you of that. But the bottom line is Trump's a centrist. You know, people are saying he's going to roll back Roe versus Wade. No, he's not. This guy pays off strippers to keep their mouth shut. I mean, this guy's not a Christian right-wing conservative. He just isn't even close. You know, he's a New Yorker, for Christ's sake. I don't usually use Christ's name in vain. I just, sound like a Yankee. It seemed like the right thing to say. But, you know, he's a Yankee. He's a New Yorker. You know, how could he possibly stand for Southern white values? He just doesn't. And to say that he does is just a smear campaign. Really, he's a centrist. He's just a kind of a normal Joe, you know, and he isn't coming for your pot. Jeff Sessions would. Jeff Sessions would come right under that little box under your bed and take your marijuana away. But Trump's not going to let him. Trump's probably a closet stoner. You know, if he doesn't smoke, it's just because he's a control freak and doesn't want to lose control and doesn't want to relax that much. But I'm sure he has. I mean, my gosh, the guy's been to Studio 54, I think. Look who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a progressive New Yorker who really has just some centrist ideas. Probably the most radical idea Donald Trump has is closing the border up. But I think anybody who's examined illegal immigration and the impact on our economy and on our government and on our culture would agree that you have to control the flow of immigrants. They can't all come at once, or you end up with what you've got going on down in Sweden and in Great Britain right now, where they're being overrun and they're being taken over by a foreign culture. You know, immigration is fine at a steady, even controlled pace and allows for assimilation. But it's kind of like pouring hot water into a cold glass. If you pour it in too fast, it's going to bust the glass. And illegal immigration is busting our country. So, I mean, really, there's got to be a centrist party. I think Trump would have ran as an independent. Trump's an independent. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He fits under that eye. He's an independent. But he hijacked the Republican Party, much to the chagrin of the rhinos who thought they had total control of that party. Had they had the kind of totalitarian control in their bylaws that the Democrats have, they would have pushed him out. But Trump was so popular that if they pushed him out of the Republican Party, he would have gone third party. That would have split the Republican Party, and Hillary probably would have won. So is that what a third party would do? Would it split the middle of the Republican out? Well, you've got to split the middle of the Democrat Party out too. So what does the middle really look like? Do I look like the middle? There's two kinds of people in the middle. There is a person who has extreme left ideas and extreme right ideas, and they're mixed together to make them in the middle. And that's me. So I'm pro-pot, pro-gay marriage, but I'll fight and die for the Second Amendment. I'll fight and die for the First Amendment. Only reason I'm pro-choice is because it's constitutional. I don't agree with abortion. I hate it. It's evil. It's ugly. If you're a woman, a man or a woman, don't participate in it. Don't pay for it. Don't do it. Give the baby to a home. It's a life. Now, having said that, Congress shall make no law to tell me what I or you can do with your body. Because if they tell her she has to have an abortion, or she can't have an abortion, rather, then they can also tell me that I have to have a prostate exam. Or they can tell me I can't use cannabis as a cancer cure. You see, it's about control versus freedom. The Freedom Party, the Freedom Party, the Freedom Party. If those who believe in freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of the Second Amendment. Come on. If we can get the people that are on the left of center to let go of the gun narrative and accept the Second Amendment, you know, there's those kind of people like me who have those extreme views from both sides. And then there's people that are in the middle, and I don't think they're very useful to any party. They just don't know what to think. They're like, I'm a Republican one day, I'm a Democrat the next. I've switched parties back and forth trying to get something done. Just trying to make something happen. Get somebody in there that's different. I voted for Barack Obama for change. I was in support of Bernie Sanders because I thought he was a disheveled old man in a cheap suit who had big ideas. You know, I'm a Trump supporter because he's not an insider. This is his first freaking job in government. We have got to come up with an alternative to this two-party fiat fake political system that has got us locked in this direction. If you give it to the Democrats, they're going to go the same direction. You give it to the Republicans, they're going to go the same direction. It's up to somebody like a Donald Trump to do it differently. And so I think the best tool for that is a centrist party who can take ideas from both sides into amalgamation and draw in an equal number of Democrats and an equal number of Republicans. That way they can do that without deciding the election for one side or the other. The Green Party is just going to pull off from the Democrats. You know, the Tea Party is just going to pull off from the Republicans. A centrist party that pulls from both sides might actually survive. Tell me what you think in the comments section. We got to do something different because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. So we've been doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, and it is responsible for the insanity in our country. We need a third party. What do you think? Can a third party work? I think we need 5 or 6 parties. I'm all for choice. What kind of world is it when all you've got is chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Some of us might like pistachio or you know, hot tin roof sundae. You know? Some of us might like peach-flavored ice cream. So we need choice in this country. We need choice in our leadership. And we got to break up this two-party system and break up this polarization. Because really, we're not as polarized as it may look like we are. It's just those of us in the middle are afraid to open our mouths. God save the Republic.